Hi, welcome back to a new video. So as you have seen from the title and the thumbnail, for this video is going to be me reading Christmas romances and getting in all the feels. For this video, I compiled a list of books I wanted to read and the list just kept expanding, so I'm just gonna keep it to 5 books. And so far I've already read 2. I haven't had time to come on and update, so now is the time. The first book that I read for this video is A Cat Cafe Christmas, which has another book with a very similar title called Christmas at the Cat Cafe, but I read the one by Cody Gary. So this one, it features a lot of cats, which is great. It's basically about veterinarian and animal lover Kara, who needs a Christmas miracle. She opened this cafe called the Mel and Forever Cat Cafe with her partner Charity to find loving homes for adorable adoptable cats. Her plan was to also have like a space in the cafe for a clinic, but so far they haven't had enough funds for that, so it's just a cafe for now with very basic facilities to give the cats examinations and things like that. The cafe is not doing really well in that they might have to close down soon because they have been making a loss for I don't know how many months. So that's when she encounters marketing guru Ben Reese, because he works for a marketing company called Kilburn. They had a recent project wherein they featured small businesses in the area on their magazine to help to boost their business. And the first business that they did this project for was for the Mel and Forever Cat Cafe, and he was there at the scene because it's quite near his workplace as well. He was just on the way to work when he was like, oh, there's a queue now, which is great. Hopefully this would help the cafe with their business and things like that. That's when he encounters Kara, who was kind of freaking out about it in not a good way, like she was having a full anxiety attack and things like that, because on that day, their only part-timer wasn't going to be there. So normally how the cafe functions is that she will be in the back helping out with the cats, while Charity and Michelle, who is a part-timer, would be running the front of the cashier and things like that. So she was just having a panic attack because she didn't like to be front-facing because of something that happened a few years ago that made her be very averse to the media and encountering customers in public, things like that. So their first meeting didn't get off to a good start because she finds out that he was the one with the marketing things. And then she was like, oh, we don't need people who are just here for a gimmick to win some $50 voucher, things like that. And then things develop from there. They kind of become more acquainted with each other through certain things, and then their relationship also develops. Ben also really wants to help her put the cafe in a better place by Christmas. And then there is also a plot point of how he comes into a situation where he has to foster a kitten because he was renovating his house and he found a kitten in the vent and they couldn't house any more cats. So he had to hold on to the kitten that he found for a few weeks. Very cute, very cute. But yeah, let's talk about trigger warnings first. Trigger warnings for toxic relationship, infidelity, gaslighting, medical content, abandonment, sexual content, emotional abuse, pregnancy, and animal death. This is very, very wholesome, very clean Christmas romance, and I enjoyed it a lot. Every chapter starts off with a description of the cats in the cafe. So I had a very fun time like looking up all their breeds and picturing how they look like, and they also get mentioned in the book as well. So we can kind of have a very big picture of all the cats, which is very, very adorable. It was very cute. I didn't give this a full 5 because I didn't like how Kara was dealing with the whole situation at the start with Ben, because in my perspective, you're running a cafe, you need marketing. No matter how media averse it is, you need to put yourself out there on social media. So the fact that an external company did it for them, I don't think they had to pay anything also, and she reacted so badly was kind of like a not good point for me. And the way that she treated him was also, I didn't really agree with her actions. The fact that the third act conflict happened, her reaction to it was also very overboard in my opinion, because I feel like she was making a bigger deal out of it than it actually was. She was also called out for it by her best friend. But yeah, Ben is just a very sweetheart guy, like no faults on him at all, and he's just very cute. his relationship with the cat that he comes to foster is also very adorable. So not much complaints on him. More of my gripes are with her and what she went through and how she deals with things. But yeah, both of them have had failed relationships and they're kind of trying to overcome that trauma, and the fact that they overcome it with each other is also really very cute. It also really made me get into the Christmas spirit. I loved how Kara is a vet, right? Like, it doesn't just get mentioned for the sake of wanting a cool profession. There's actually a scene in the book where she actually has to do procedures and examinations or like take care of the cats on a regular basis, and I love that it gets featured quite a bit in this story. Overall, I gave it 4 stars, but I am thinking of whether or not I need to up my rating. Maybe up it to 4.25. Yeah, I don't think it hit 4.5 for me, but very, very good read that I will recommend to you, and it's great. And the next book that I read is A Cross-Country Christmas by Courtney Walsh, and this one is a really short book. It's only 256 pages. I really enjoyed this as well, but I have a bit more things to say. This one follows Lauren Richmond, who is not a fan of Christmas. She's basically like the Grinch. She's very grumpy. She doesn't like the holidays. She rarely goes home for the holidays because she is very busy. Her duties as a set decorator on a TV sitcom keep her very preoccupied. She's also the kind that is kind of like, I need to do everything. I have to put everything into my work and things like that. And also because her family isn't the closest, she has an older brother. So their parents are very absent in their lives because they're very busy quarreling with each other. But yeah, she only has her brother, and this December, Lauren's brother Spencer is expecting a baby. So his wife is almost on the way already, and she is finally convinced to go home to witness the birth of her niece, basically. She kind of dilly-dallied her way into making a decision on whether or not she wanted to go back. So by the time she eventually came around to a decision, I think there are no seats or it's too expensive. The only alternative she has is to follow her best friend's brother, Will, home because he's taking a road trip. Will Sinclair. What we know is that Lauren has been trying to forget her childhood crush for him for more than 10 years. Okay, correction. She has a fear of flying. That's why she can only take the car with him. I think she didn't want to take a bus because it would have been very complicated or things like that. Something happened many years ago, maybe like 10 years, that made her want to kill her crush for him and move on. So we don't know what happens until later on, which I will talk about in spoilers. But yeah, so she doesn't really have a very good impression of him. And she starts off the road trip with her being very rude and standoffish to him, even though he doesn't have to do this favor for her. She is hitching a ride with him. But yeah, she expected like a maybe 3 days kind of trip, but Will was taking a very long road trip to see the sights and everything, so it ended up being 7 days. So she's obviously not happy about that, and she's a planner, so she needs everything to be booked, scheduled, itinerary, things like that. But Will is more of the kind of just go along the ride. We'll just stop whenever we want to stop. We'll just rest whenever we need to. He's more of a chill guy lah. So they're kind of opposite travelers. So that was also kind of difficult for them. But then, no choice, they're just stuck in the car together. Talk about trigger warnings first. Trigger warnings for abandonment, alcoholism, addiction, alcohol, emotional abuse, toxic relationship, drug use, car accident, and death. This one is kind of like a grumpy sunshine in that Lauren is the grump and Will is just like the lover of Christmas and things like that. I normally don't really like road trip books. I read a road trip book before and I didn't really enjoy it, but this one completely changed my mind about it because I liked the things that they stopped to see and it all came together in the end also. In the end, I gave it 4 stars because this book has a few issues that I would like to talk about after reading Goodreads romances as well. So for one, Lauren is very immature. In the book, she's described as like a very mature lady. She doesn't play around with guys, things like that. But I feel like she hasn't really grown out of her childhood crush for him, and she has held a grudge against him for like 10 years. Like, that's not a sign of a grown-up person to me. The reason why she's hung out about it, I'll talk about it later. And the next thing is, I don't like her attitude towards him because no matter your grudge whatever, right, you can be civil instead of being standoffish. The guy is doing her a favor, but she's acting like he's indebted to her, which, okay, to her, it might come across as that, but he doesn't know about it. He doesn't remember anything. So it's kind of like, at least be civil about it. You can have enemies, but don't need to be so upfront and harsh, you know? So yeah, I didn't like her attitude. Next point was, so Will in the past, I'm not talking about the issues really, but I'm talking about the story. Sorry, it's all over the place. Will was kind of like he wasn't on the best route in university because he got acquainted with friends who really liked partying, and even though he was on the baseball team on scholarship, because of his friends' influence, he started to take for granted his scholarship, and in the end he lost the scholarship. But after that he went on to become a baseball coach. But before that, when he was struggling in uni after he lost his scholarship, he also had drinking problems, and he had to put in a lot of work to come back onto the main path instead of going astray. It really took him a lot of effort, and he is now a changed man. He's not really flirty anymore, things like that. Not really a playboy, not really a drinker. Yeah, so basically he's a changed guy, is what I'm trying to say. It's nice to see him go on that trajectory. Like, you can really see his character development throughout the book as it gets reviewed, because Lauren still sees him as like that jerk from the past that hurt her, but actually he's not that guy anymore, and he's really like a very sweet guy throughout the road trip. But there's a little bit of I don't know how to explain this, but he's a gentleman, but it can come across as being sexist also. So for example, Lauren wants to drive, but he's like, no, you're not driving my car. To some, it can be seen as he's trying to be gentlemanly about it, like the guy should drive. But I don't know. In this society, why not just make them both take turns, right? And for Lauren, she's often portrayed as like the not like other girls kind of stereotype. Oh, like she doesn't like makeup, she's very plain, guys just look over her, she's a wallflower, things like that. And it's kind of very, very traditional, because a lot of old books used to have that kind of portrayal of women, and it's like makeup is nice too, you know? You don't need to look down on other girls who like makeup, is what I'm trying to say. Natural beauty, sure, but it doesn't need to get emphasized as much in this book as it was. He kind of belittles her type of traveling style, because he keeps saying that she's uptight, she needs to loosen up because she's organized and things like that. It would have been better if, other than Lauren coming to appreciate just going on an adventure without a plan kind of style, he also comes to appreciate her kind of traveling style, in that they have a compromise in that they can have one day that is planned out and another day where they just let things happen. And that was actually suggested by Lauren in the book, but then he was like, like that's no, that's not fun. It's like bordering on problematic, but it's also, the rest of the story is still cute. So yeah. And he went on this trip for a reason. So when you find out that reason, oh my gosh, I started crying so much. I don't know if it's because I am going through my monthly menstruation. I got very emotional. And I don't know, I think that kind of concept just hits me in a certain way, and it's quite rare that I cry in books. I would like to go into spoilers now. Before I go into spoilers, I gave this book 4 stars, slightly lower than Cat Cafe Christmas because of the issues that I mentioned, but it's still very cute and that I cried. So take with it what you will and decide for yourself whether or not you would like to read it, but I will recommend it if you can handle the issues and overlook it, because they are still cute. Okay, so going to spoilers, right? The reason why she had a grudge against him for so long is because it was her break in university. She came back for Christmas break. She saw him at a party and he was already like wasted, and then he asked her to give him a ride home because she was sober, and then he was like, oh, you're my best friend's little sister, right? Then he was going on and on about, oh, you're so beautiful, I can't believe I didn't notice you sooner, things like that. I keep picturing how good it would be if the two of us were to be together, and I think we would be great. And then she helped him into his room. He was like, so do you have a boyfriend? No, so that means no one will be angry if I kiss you, right? Then he kissed her and then they started making out. She was like, I'm not gonna sleep with you, and he was like, that's fine. And then she was like, but you'll call me tomorrow, right? And he was like, yeah, sure, of course I'll call you tomorrow. So she went home very happy because she's like, oh my god, my crush responded to my feelings, and are we gonna be an item now? The next day, is he gonna go ask my brother for his approval? And then she was just having all these pictures in her mind. But the next day, he didn't call her, and then she was like, okay, I need to go and talk to him about this. But she went to him and then she saw him at a party. He was talking to a blonde girl, and then she was immediately insecure again, like oh my god, of course he wouldn't talk to me, that girl is so beautiful, but like look at me. What made it worse was that girl was asking him like, why is she looking for you? And then he was like, I don't even know why she's here, like I didn't invite her. She was like, so you're not gonna get together with her, right? Then he was like, no, she's my best friend's little sister, and you and me with the blonde girl. You can be doing so many more things that don't involve talking, and then kiss her, things like that. And then that's when she was like, oh my god, my heart is broken. That's why she held a grudge on him. Which, okay, to be fair, it's hurtful, but she continued to kiss him when he was drunk. Like, there's no consent. He's drunk. And of course, okay, he doesn't remember because he's wasted, right? So I can't believe she faulted him for that for years, for something that he doesn't even know he did because he was drunk. Taken out of context, it's very dangerous to say that you cannot fault a guy for his mistakes because he's drunk. But she could have confronted him about it, and then they could have had a civil conversation about it instead of her holding a grudge against him for so many number of years. So that was my gripe with her conflict. But okay, the reason why I cried was because it's so cute. I don't know, his relationships with people are very cute to see. Like his relationship with his student, with his student's parents. The mom is very grateful to the coach lah. He's just a very charming guy, but when he discovered that he really likes Lauren as more than a friend or his best friend's little sister, he's still nice to people. But for example, when he's getting hit on, he's like, oh, I'm waiting for Lauren. So he makes it clear to people, which is very cute. And his whole road trip was actually for his grandfather, who wasn't doing very well health-wise. Like he's on his last few weeks already, and they went on a road trip together, like his grandfather and him, when they were young. So this road trip was for him to recreate that road trip for his grandfather to take pictures and show it to him as a Christmas gift. And it's the cutest thing, oh my god, made me cry like a baby. And the fact that Lauren was like so annoying to him and complaining to him, thinking that he did that to annoy her, it's like, oh my god, girl, not everything's about you. It's very cute, like his relationship with his grandfather also, his sisters, his family, they're all a very tight-knitted, close family. I really enjoyed it, despite the sexist comments here and there and like the problematic things that I found to be problematic. I gave this 4 stars because I really still like this book, and it made me have many Christmas feels because we stopped by a town that was really just Christmas vibes, and then we went to visit Christmas Santa, things like that. It's very, very, very adorable. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say for now.
One last thing that I wanted to say is that I normally hate second chance romances, but I don't know, I just liked that one, which is saying something.
The next book that I think I'm gonna go into is Christmas is All Around by Martha Waters. Yeah, I'm just very much in a Christmas mood now, and I might want to watch a Christmas movie soon. But for now, I'm really enjoying all the Christmas romances that I'm reading. I don't know why I love Christmas. I'm not Christian, but I don't know, it's just very vibey and feely. Yeah, okay, that's all. Oh my god, this clip is gonna fall too long. Bye! Hi, I finished Christmas is All Around by Martha Waters. This is my only physical copy out of all the books I'm reading for this video, and it was just a random find that I saw displayed at the library. Then I was like, okay, sure, why not? I'm just gonna read it. Published in 2024, by the way, October, so I think I'm one of the few earlier readers, and it's quite thin, like 304 pages. So what this story is about is basically we follow Charlotte. I don't think I shared this yet. Yeah, Charlotte hates the holidays. She was a former child actress in a Christmas film called Christmas Truly. She wants to move on from that film, but because it's a film that has garnered quite the attention, kind of like a classic in their world basically, the fans won't let her move on, so much so that there were actually plans for a reboot with the original characters, like they follow what happens to them after they grow up or something like that. But she returned down that reboot offer, which essentially made the film unable to carry on, which I actually think it's quite, I mean, if you really wanted to, you could have, which Charlotte also thought about it, like they could have just casted a literal other blonde character and it would have been okay. But because of that, she got quite a lot of harassment on her social media platforms where people were DMing her, why do you want to ruin Christmas for me, things like that. So she decided to flee to London to spend the 5-week countdown to the holidays with her sister, and who knows, she ends up at Eden Priory, a filming location for the Christmas Truly film. She was actually accidentally left behind by her family due to circumstances, so she was forced to accept a ride back to London from Graham, the son of the owners of the house. And that's when their relationship starts to develop from there. They actually enter into a business relationship because Charlotte is an artist. She likes to sketch and paint or something like that. Graham hires her to sketch houses that were featured in iconic Christmas films and be stocked in their shop. So so that it will boost business for both sides, because Graham is also trying to keep the house sustainable and running, because it's very expensive to own a historic house in England. And for Charlotte, it's like good because then she doesn't need to care about shipping, because she is in London, so she doesn't need to care about shipping to her British consumer base. I thought this was just okay. Don't really have trigger warnings for this one. I was just kind of meh about this relationship premise on it being based on a Christmas film. And Charlotte is like your typical Grinch kind of character in that she doesn't like Christmas, she hates Christmas. She actually accepted this business with Graham just so she didn't have to attend some of the Christmas themed activities that her sister's family has planned. But yeah, I was more enamored by Graham in that he is a very acts of service guy, which made me like kick my feet a little. So for example, from what I can remember from my highlights in the ebook that I have, for example, she finished her cup of drink and then he would just take it from her and then stack it with his own so that she doesn't have to carry it. For example, she uses ketchup for fries, she ran out of ketchup and she was annoyed by it, and then Graham just offers her his and then he just uses a different kind of condiment instead. And the things he says to her are just so romantic. It's like, because Charlotte has a thing about not being able to trust relationships anymore after having her heart broken by her ex a few years ago, and she is quite touchy on the Christmas Truly film in general. So when it comes to that, then Graham will say things to reassure her, like he likes her for her, doesn't like her because she's an artist, doesn't like her because she was in the film, things like that, and it reassures her and it's very romantic also. The third conflict was kind of, again, like overreacting for me, similar to Cat Cafe Christmas. But yeah, this was still quite Christmassy in that they visited all the different films. It would have been better if I actually watched the films, but I kind of got the idea. There's also this bit about how she's American and he's British, so they delve into quite a lot of their differences. For example, like some of the terms the British use and the Americans use are quite different. I'm like, okay, sometimes when I read this kind of things, it's not super smooth for me. It feels kind of awkward, the writing of it, but I could overlook it. I think that's about it, and I gave this 3.5 stars. Still okay if you need like a quick Christmas read, but not my favourite. I have more sweet things to say about Graham. So he's the oldest brother with an 11 years younger sister. So growing up, his sister would cling to him and want him to sit with her at the sofa and watch things on the TV. So he watched Pride and Prejudice, he watched Beauty and the Beast, and he's educated on these kind of things. And then he is very affectionate towards his sisters. For example, they would have these Christmas traditions and he is into Christmas, right? So for example, they have a blind cocktail making competition, and then there was once his sister won and she convinced him to buy her very expensive stationery and he did so anyway. Then this year he won, but then he was like, so are you gonna buy me expensive things that I want? And then she was like, yeah, maybe not. And then he was just like chill about it. It's very cute to see his relationship with his sisters because I always wanted an older brother. But yeah, one more thing to add about this was I was assuming that this was a clean Christmas romance because the previous two books that I've been reading were clean, but this is not. So go into this with the knowledge that it's a little steamy, kind of came out of nowhere for me. For me, it didn't really add to the story. I would have rather it been clean almost because it didn't really add anything. So yeah, just don't be surprised when you come to that part. And yeah, that's all. Hi, I just finished The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year, I think yesterday. So I'm coming on my thoughts about that book. It's by Ali Carter and the book is basically Knives Out with a holiday rom-com twist. We follow our main character, Maggie, who is a queen of cozy mysteries. She's an author and she gets invited to her biggest fan's home for Christmas, and she thought that she would be going there alone until she found out that Mr. Big Time Thriller guy Ethan Wyatt was going along as well, but she hates him because of certain things, but one of them is that he thinks her name is Marcy no matter how many times she's told him otherwise. So they both turn up at the mansion only to find out that it's Eleanor Ashley, who is the Duchess of Death, the queen of the thriller genre in general, who invited them. Maggie is living her dreams until the next morning, Eleanor vanishes from a locked room and Maggie was wondering what happened to her. Is it a kind of test? What happens? Is Ethan the competition? And then the story develops from there. They are not the only characters there. There's a whole list of other characters there that are related to Eleanor or they have some kind of ties with her, and it's a mystery of finding out what happened to Eleanor, where Eleanor went, and maybe someone is there that wants them to be dead. Let's talk about trigger warnings first. Trigger warnings for gaslighting, emotional abuse, death of parent, murder, violence, injury, infidelity, panic attacks, and toxic friendship. This story, it took me a little while to get into it because I was more intrigued by the mystery, but the mystery took a while to actually get there. But once it started to happen and people were trying to figure out what was happening, I got into the story more. I thought that the story was quite interesting and a good mix up from the usual Christmas romances, you know. I wasn't really feeling anything for Maggie, but Ethan is a charming character. For whatever Maggie says about him, I kind of could tell what was happening. Like it's more of like a misunderstanding on Maggie's part, and she just thinks that he's a very filtered influencer, social media kind of person, when he's actually more than that. And both characters have traumatic pasts. Maggie in terms of her romance and Ethan in terms of his previous profession, because he came out of nowhere and broke through into the writing industry. Nobody knows where he came from before that. I really liked Ethan, although I did see some reviews saying that he was a bit cheesy or corny after a while because he was all like, who did this to you? I'm gonna murder them, that kind of overplayed character trope. But I thought that the way that he was very devoted to Maggie was very cute to see, and he's obviously whipped for her, and I really like reading about when the male main character falls first, so that was intriguing for me. Okay, the mystery was not bad in the execution. It's a whodunit, right? So there's a list of characters. I didn't guess who did it in the end, but I also thought that because there's both the mystery of who did it and what happened to Eleanor, the what happened to Eleanor part wasn't really explained super well. I guess it's the author's choice of leaving some mystery for the reader, but I don't like those sorts of conclusions. It didn't really give me a lot of Christmas feels because it's more of a wintry setting. There's snow and everything, but because this is like a crime that happened over Christmas kind of got downplayed. It can also be pitched as like a January winter kind of thing. I would still recommend it, and overall I gave it 4 stars, which is not a bad rating at all. I did quite enjoy it, is what I'm trying to say. And I did move on to the last book, which is Holiday Romance by Catherine Walsh, and I'm still in the early beginnings of it, but basically the story, from what I know of it so far, is we follow our 2 main characters. Forgive me, I can never remember the names, but the female main character, she is a lawyer or an aspiring law student, and she first comes to know of our male main character through her roommate because he is her roommate's boyfriend. Their first encounter was 7 years ago. They ran into each other because they were on the same flight, sitting together on their flight home for Christmas. So they are both Irish. I didn't get off to a good start because her roommate is a shitty person who broke up with him on the flight via text. And so because of her supposed relation to the roommate, they are not really on good terms, but somehow they keep running into each other every year on this flight. And it's become sort of a thing, I guess, that they're now more friends in present day. They still choose to fly together, and that's literally all I know so far. I would say I'm quite intrigued already. It really pulled me in really quickly, and I'm very interested in reading more about this. And it's the last book that I'll be reading for this video, so hopefully we end on a good note. And yeah, keep you updated. Hi, I'm talking into the mic. I am coming back to update because I finished the last book for this video, which is Holiday Romance by Catherine Walsh, and it's the first in a series called Fitzpatrick Christmas. So there's also a following book to this that is also a Christmas romance, but I think I want to save it for next Christmas. So we follow our main characters Molly and Andrew. I think I've told you that they first got acquainted because Andrew was Molly's roommate's boyfriend who then proceeded to break up with him on the flight. And by some miracle, they run into each other again the next Christmas when they are flying back to Ireland, but they don't sit together. And on the third flight, Andrew approaches Molly and was like, "What's your seat number? Should we try and sit together?" And then that's where their friendship or relationship starts to develop, and nothing has happened between them for the past 10 years that they've been sharing this flight, except this year, which is the 10th year. There was a huge storm. They almost couldn't get back home for Christmas, and then Molly was like, "Okay, we're gonna do everything we can to help Andrew get back home for Christmas because he's the most holiday Christmas person. He likes to spend Christmas with his family." And so their whole journey home is very stressful. It lasts a total of 3 days. They take a flight to somewhere else, I think Paris, then they take another flight from Paris to somewhere else, and then they take a ferry nearer to their home, and then they can take a bus or something like that, or a train. A train is involved as well, so there's a lot of modes of transportation in here. The first half of the book is just focused on their journey of trying to get home. Before I proceed further, let me talk about trigger warnings first. Trigger warnings for sexual content. So this is not a clean Christmas romance. Pregnancy, alcoholism, alcohol addiction, infidelity, cursing, and medical content. So that was the first half of the book. And then during that whole stressful experience home, Molly started to realize that maybe she likes Andrew more than a friend. And it all started because they were under a mistletoe and they were pressured to kiss, and then Molly was like, "Oh my god, that was amazing." The first half of the book really stressed me out because it's like, wow, trying to get home during peak periods, especially Christmas period, right, is so stressful. And I was so stressed for them, like whether they can catch their flights and everything, because they already had their original flight cancelled, and the whole journey was so stressful. It didn't give me the good Christmas vibes. And then the second part, when they were finally home and they were spending time with each other and each other's families, I thought it was okay, like okay romance. I like that Andrew is a whipped guy again. I didn't really feel a lot of chemistry, if that makes sense. I also want to preface this by saying that I'm not a fan of Friends to Lovers, like reading about it in books. So I'm kind of disappointed because I left this book for last thinking that I love this the most, right? But I was just okay. I really think it's because of the Friends to Lovers thing that I was just kind of meh about. The things that Andrew says to Molly is really very romantic. I think spoilers already, like how he's saying, "I've wanted you since flight I don't know what. I just had to control myself. And I was happy when you were happy because you had your boyfriends, but I was like being ripped apart when I saw you with them," things like that. It's kind of like a lot of missed chances until the 10th year, which reminded me of a book by Cecilia Ahern, which I can't remember the title, but I'll put it here. And that book was also about like missing each other until the last possible moment after many years. This one, they're still like in their 30s, but in the Cecilia Ahern one, I think it was until they both had their own families and grandchildren and things like that. So I didn't really enjoy this a lot. I mean, it's still good. I just didn't really get a lot of Christmas feels. I got quite stressed reading about this actually. The chemistry was just fine. So overall, I gave this 3.5 stars. And if I had to choose, I would say that my favorite out of all the 5 would still be Cat Cafe Christmas or Cross Country Christmas, because those were the 2 that gave me the most feels. But I'm also not sure if it's because I've been reading so many Christmas romances in a row that I'm starting to feel a bit like the Grinch. But yeah, I think I'm still gonna try to watch Christmas films and insert it somewhere in the clip. Hi! I know I said it was the last clip and the last book, but my hope for another Christmas book came in and I decided to just read it, and if it wasn't good, I wasn't going to talk about it, but it was good, so let's talk about it. So that book is Wreck My Plans by Gillian Meadows, and in that book we follow our female main character. She's in a family where they celebrate Christmas together. They're very close. She has a brother who is 10 years older than her, and she has a crush on her brother's best friend. So she is called Lena, and he is called Gavin, the best friend, and she was crushing on him until something happened 3 years ago, wherein something happened between Lena and Gavin. Like, nothing romantically happened between them, but something happened such that Gavin disappeared from the family without a word. So Gavin used to always spend Christmas with their family because his family is not around. This year, Lena wasn't supposed to be with her family celebrating Christmas. She was supposed to be at her best friend's house, but then her best friend's niece suddenly had some kind of stomach flu, so she was like, okay, I'll just go home. And that's when she saw Gavin with her family. And the reason why Gavin was there was because he thought that Lena wouldn't be there this Christmas, which was true according to her original plan. That's kind of what's happening. Lena wants to ask him why he disappeared, and then to Gavin, Lena is a very big temptation. He has liked her all those years ago, but obviously because at that time she was 19, he was 29, it's frowned upon. That's why he tried to stay away. So now 10 years later, they are kind of rediscovering and figuring out their relationship with each other. I didn't expect to enjoy this as much as I did. And this is a very, very steamy Christmas romance. It's the steamiest out of everything I've read for this video. So, trigger warnings for sexual content, car accident, abandonment, cursing, pregnancy, alcohol, suicidal thoughts, panic attacks, disorders, and self-harm. When I was reading this, I wasn't really going into it with a too analytical eye. I was just having a great time, which I was like, this is what I want from a Christmas romance. Overall, I really enjoyed this such that I decided to give this book 4.5 stars because I felt like I enjoyed this a little bit more than Christmas Cat Cafe. I thought I wouldn't enjoy this because this was like a 10-year age gap and Brother's Best Friend, which I'm not normally like a fan of, but this was great. I didn't hit the full 5 because it just didn't give me that feeling. Overall, it was really good and it gave me like the angst and then afterwards the fluff, which is what I like to read about in books. So yeah, very good end to this video, and yeah, this is the official end. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel for more of such content. I hope you're having a great day or a great week whenever or wherever you are. Remember to stay hydrated, and I'll see you in my next video.